Hello, everyone. As people have joined in from different part of the world, very good morning, very good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. My name is Sachin. I am an IP specialist with LexisNexis, currently based out in India, and I'll be moderator for today's session, wherein we are going to share some great insights with you on what's happening in the healthcare technologies, what kind of companies are involved in the process, some new startups coming in, dominating players, some cool products they are coming up with in the very recent time. And for today's session, we have Dr. Serbani with us. Dr. Serbani is consultant with Patent Site, wherein she and her team are working with our global clienteles on various issues of IP. She's consulting our customers basis upon what they can do in the technologies, markets, companies, assisting them with optimizing their portfolio, and also guiding them on some white spaces that exist in their domain in particular technologies. Dr. Serbani is also master in IP law and PhD in biochemistry. So Serbani, I welcome you to today's webinar.
Thank you very much. I'm actually excited to be able to present the insights that we have today.
Yeah,
And
great, thanks. Same here. So moving forward, Serbani, I think we can start the session now on this topic. I'm really looking forward to the insights which you have for us today. And yeah, we can start the session now.
I welcome everybody to today's session. As I said, we are very excited to be able to present the insights on this very interesting topic, and if I can say, a very current topic. So today's topic of discussion or webinar is digital health or healthcare technology. Uh, let's have an idea about how we define that, because the way it is defined, it's the way we have defined it in terms of the search syntax to search for patents in this particular field. So this definition has been given by the European Union Division of World Health Organization. Digital health, it encompasses e-health, where the contribution of advanced computer science technologies, the information and communication technologies such as big data, genomics, artificial intelligence in the field of healthcare system, public health, uh, equity in access to health services are taken into account. This is exactly how we have defined the search syntax. If I have time at the end, I will show you some excerpts from the syntax as well to give you a fair idea about how we went ahead with defining the search syntax to retrieve patterns that are in this field. Before we go into this is another information. I think it's very relevant information that advancement in digital health has been selected as one of those topics that the World Health Organization believes and proclaims will aid in achievement of one of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, specifically the SDG 3, which is related to good health and well-being. So the topic that we are discussing right now is not only a very relevant current topic, but also one of the topics where advancements are required if the goals that the UN has set up are to be achieved. The search as well as the analytics have been done in the platform of patent site of the LexisNexis suite of softwares that we have. Um, just before moving ahead, I'll just try to give you an idea about the methodology of quality assessment of patents in patent site. Uh, Patent site works at the patent family level, so all patent documents with the same, exactly the same priority parameters are brought together to define one patent family. The underlying technological hypothesis is exactly same priority parameters sharing patent documents refer technically to one particular invention. All the quality assessments are done at the patent family level. The quality assessments are then generally done on two major factors. First is the forward citation based KPI called the technology relevance, where the hypothesis is if there is an invention that is technologically relevant and it has been protected by patents, that means it will be cited as a relevant prior art for subsequent patent applications. And you will see today how relevant that can be. The other part is the market coverage, where the scope of the protection of the invention across the globe is taken into account. When these two are combined, they give us the competitive impact, which is the quality indicator of a patent family in patent site. Once we have the competitive impact value of all the patent families, we group the patent families into sets that can be a portfolio of a company or a set of patents owned by a company or the entire field defined by the patents. The sum of the competitive impact of this set gives us the patent asset index. This is our portfolio strength indicator. You will see these KPIs when we move ahead, and I hope you can correlate and connect with them. Before we move ahead, let's first have a look at the overview of the entire field, what we can get an understanding of by patent analytics on the entire field of digital health.
So
What you
Sabni,
see, yeah.
if I can ask this one question, we have question from Matt. I think it's going to be helpful for the audience also. You mentioned e-health at the beginning. So can you define more on e-health? What's included here? The exact question is digital health definition depend upon e-health, which is a broad term. Can you define e-health? Hmm.
Yes, very good. Thank you for asking the question. Electronic health, as we define e-cigarettes. So any kind of ICT, that is information and communication technologies, artificial intelligence, machine algorithm, robotics, all these are expressed in the search syntax either through keywords or through IPC or CPC classifications. And then we have assembled them to define this particular field of digital health. E-health means anything that is in the application on the public health, be it medicine, be it diagnostics of healthcare, be it healthcare management, using technologies that are related to computers and all other computer-related techniques. I hope I could make myself a bit more clear about the scope of today's search.
Thanks,
Um,
Sabni.
yeah, so are there any other questions or we move ahead?
Not at the moment. We can move forward.
Okay,
Yes.
yes. But please feel free to ask questions so that we have a thorough discussion while we go through.
Sure.
So the first thing that you see here is the filing statistics graph of the patents that we have retrieved as digital health patents. Now, as you see, the first thing that you see is that the number of filings have increased over the years, and there have been increased filings in the recent years. One thing that is characteristic of a field that is currently developing, where there is a huge activity of research as well as patenting in a field, where even the recently filed patents, the patents that were filed in the recent years, have also gone inactive. Either the patents that were filed were not granted by the examiners, or the patent applicant didn't pursue them further. This gives you an idea that this field is right now open innovation field where R&D is going on, inventions are coming in, attempt to protection through patents is done. However, still in the heuristic stage, trying and testing. And the first thing that you see in a filing statistic graph when you slice it by the legal status is this kind of an indication that this is not yet a field that has seen it all. It is open and it is currently having a huge amount of innovation going on. Once we understand this, we move ahead and we see here the top 20 entities that own patents in this particular field. We have ranked them by the portfolio strength. So if you connect, the portfolio strength is the patent asset index. Based on our KPIs, we have calculated the strength of the set of patents that each entity owns in this field of digital health. So obviously, we not only take into account the quantity, we also take into account the quality. So this is the first time we are trying to bring in a correlation between the quantity and the quality. As you can see, the top here is Johnson & Johnson, and it has only 3,000 patents. It's much less than that of Olympus, which is fifth in the ranking, and it has almost 5 times the patents of Johnson & Johnson. But based on our KPI, Johnson & Johnson is at the top. Intuitive Surgical has much less number of patents than Johnson & Johnson or any other company at the top, but it still features in the top 10. And I can very well understand you already see Philip Morris and British American Tobacco here. E-health also includes e-cigarettes. We have kept it here. Now, the debate whether they are really contributing to the health or not is definitely open to discussion. We have kept it here to show you how transparent the data is. In case you want to customize it and remove it, it can always be done. You can use a CPC and not our IPC A24, and you can remove them. We haven't, because we wanted to show you that if you want to cover it, these will also come up, because the patents, they do declare that they are helping in advancement of health through e-cigarettes. As we saw this, that this is not only the quantity, but also quality involved. It also makes sense to understand what is the focus of each entity in the field of digital health. What you see here is these 3,000 patents of Johnson & Johnson, they make up 10% of the entire portfolio of Johnson & Johnson's patent portfolio. So 10%, you can think of the focus, how can it be? Where with 878 patents, Intuitive Surgical, these 878 patents account for almost 70% of their patent portfolio. So Intuitive Surgical's focus by quantity into digital health is much more than that of Johnson & Johnson. Also to take into account in a field that is developing very fast in the current state. The other thing before we move ahead is, what is the legal status of the patents that belong to these entities? As we see here, Johnson & Johnson at the top, it has fewer inactive patents and more active patents, which are either in force or pending. So what we see here is, it's at the top. It does have a substantial proportion of patents that it has enforced, and it has a future because it has pending applications here. Olympus, either it has been there for long, more than 20 years, either the patents have expired, or it has filed patents that it could not maintain, could not get granted, but the proportion of inactive here is substantial compared to the ones that are active. Once we have this idea, then we can have a fair amount of idea about the quantity, the quality, the focus, as well as where they stand currently. Because if you have a patent and you have to enforce it to derive the best value out of it. Up till now, you see the current status. Probably it also makes sense to have a look at how they developed over the time, how they came to this current date from the past. What you see here is the time evolution of the patent asset index, the portfolio strength, as well as the quantity. Now, we already discussed a lot that Johnson & Johnson fewer patents. This is how Johnson & Johnson has developed in terms of quantity. It did have a steady increase in its portfolio size over the years and a correlated increase in portfolio strength. However, as you see, there are other companies that have much more patents and have much more increase in their patent portfolio by quantity over time. But none of them had this kind of an spike in their patent asset index as others. The next company, Philips, as you see, the number of patents is much more than Johnson & Johnson. And when you see the patent asset index trend, Philips did catch up with Johnson & Johnson around 2017. And then the following 2 years led to a further increase in the strength of Johnson & Johnson. This is something also to have an idea about, like over the time, which companies' patents had started to gain more strength in the field that we are analyzing, in this case, digital health. I guess people have already seen companies like Canon and Fujifilm. They are not here by fluke. They are here because they have patents in the imaging techniques in digital diagnostic devices, like those that are involved in colonoscopy and etc. And everything we cannot put in the webinar. So if you want to go into the details, please book a demo with us. I would love to show you every detail that we have here.
Sabani, at this point, if I can ask a question, though two of my question you've already answered, like what the cigarette manufacturers are doing in this domain. I think because of the e-cigarette part, their patents might have come into this domain. And also, you specifically mentioned about Canon and Fujifilm. Ideally, the cameras manufacturers, but it's good that you already answered it. One specific company, if you can go to the first slide, wherein you showed the number of companies. Yes. So here I see like Alphabet is there. Alphabet is, of course, it's Google, right? And Google is almost in every domain. They must be doing something in the healthcare,
True.
in the AI tech, ML tech. I'm not sure, like in how many areas they've spread out. But when you move forward, Alphabet, position reduced in the legal status side. So is it they're just operating in one side, or they don't have much patents around, healthcare industry? So if you could just throw a
Yeah.
little bit light on Google role
True.
in the
Yeah.
healthcare would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. And actually, I was expecting this question, so I'm prepared with Alphabet actually. But before we move ahead to
Hmm.
Alphabet, I just wanted to show you this last slide regarding this set of companies that we are having an idea about. I'll then move to Alphabet for sure. These are some of the selected companies from the top 20. And to answer your focus also, that where are they having the strength? These are some of the specific areas related to the digital health technology. And the bubble area is the average quality, because you already saw that Johnson& Johnson has around 3,000 patents, Intuitive has around less than 1,000 patents. So we take the average quality to compare them. So what we see here is Johnson& Johnson, it seems to have a very high strength in computer-aided surgery like robots, and implantable prosthesis, surgical or monitoring instruments, as well as some ICT regarding healthcare management. The other company that seems to have comparable strength in these areas is Intuitive Surgical. Maybe not as high as that of Johnson& Johnson, but still quite comparable to wherever they have a strength in. And you're right, I have kept Alphabet, and you see Alphabet having a huge average quality in surgical or monitoring instruments. We will take this up when we go to Alphabet. Now, when we see like this with Johnson& Johnson and Intuitive Surgical, I would like to point out to the news article that is there. It's 2020. So Johnson& Johnson's new robotic surgical system gets launched in 2020 to compete with Intuitive Surgical's Da Vinci. So Johnson& Johnson has launched a new surgical robot. And if you just recap what we just discussed up till now, Johnson& Johnson had a huge spike in since 2017 in its patent asset index regarding digital health. We also saw its average quality being quite high in the inventions that are in the technological scope of surgical robots. And the other company, Intuitive Surgical, has been there since long, 2000. And now this is a characteristic of a fast developing field in the current scenario, and how well patent analytics correlate with the news that you see. I hope I can give you more insights in this way throughout the webinar. Now, coming to Sachin's question regarding Alphabet, I expected that where is Alphabet, what it is doing, and why it is in digital health. I guess this question came to my mind, and I think it's a question that comes to most of the people who are right now in going through this webinar with us, that is Alphabet doing something itself, or it is
Hmm.
trying to get a foothold through acquisitions? Let's have a look, and you can do that by having a look at the original applicants of the patents that are currently under the ownership of Alphabet. Now, LexisNexis patent site works with the current ultimate owner concept. So that's why you find that these patents that are originally filed by different applicants, as well as original applicant being Alphabet, this is the Google Life Sciences, which is Alphabet's own inventions, under the ownership of Alphabet in patent site. The first thing that comes to the mind is we have ranked them by the number of patents that are there originally applied for by these different applicants. The number of patents that are there that are originally Alphabet's patents are outnumbered by the ones that have been originally applied by other applicants. So if we want to understand what Alphabet is doing, definitely it is trying to get a foothold in the healthcare industry, particularly in digital health, and it has acquired patents from other companies as well. And I didn't know about Fitbit. And in case you are also wondering about Fitbit, this is the reason that we see Fitbit under Alphabet. So the recent news is 2021, Google completes the acquisition of Fitbit. And so we expect that it is definitely in the digital health technology. So the next question is, can patent analytics tell us how profitable this acquisition has been?
Mm.
In that case, let's have a look at this. I guess the chart is now more clear to you because you already saw a similar kind of a chart. So these are the original applicants of the patents that are currently owned by Alphabet. And these are some of the specific areas where digital health is applied for. And you see the average quality of Fitbit patents, it's much higher than Google's original patents as well as the patents it has acquired from someone else. And the surgical instruments, if you remember, surgical and monitoring instruments, I don't think it's a surprise. Fitbit has come up with products that are in that region where they're wearables, and the patents are definitely point out to some remarkable inventions. So they are high value patents, and that's what we see here as well. So definitely acquisition of Fitbit has proved to be quite profitable for Alphabet.
Yeah, I think
And
it
when
also makes sense, Bunny, isn't it? For example, for a company like Google, who is very rich on cash, and they want to enter a particular domain, they can buy a small startup and maybe then move forward with the dominating the industry. And this is what I think happened this last week, wherein Google in the conference they mentioned that they acquired Fitbit because of the hardware aspect, because they manufacture watches and which detect the sensors, SpO2 level, but the main goal was to develop the Wear OS, the software that can be implemented in Fitbit infrastructure and presented the combination of both to the public. So I think that's why if you look at the Fitbit, as you rightly pointed out, the surgical domain is quite high among all the
yeah,
four other acquisitions which Google did,
yes,
and this is reflecting in the original Alphabet portfolio. So I think yeah, it
yes.
makes sense. It makes sense for big companies to go and acquire small startups. Yeah.
Yeah. So whichever company or yeah, so they did a good job, we must say in this case.
Mm.
So now what we have done is we have removed the effect of market coverage. As we discussed, small companies may not have the money or may not have the strategy of protecting their invention across the globe. But in case the underlying hypothesis, there are 2 points to consider here. In case you have an invention that you are protecting through patents, and if that invention is that remarkable, it is bound to get cited as a relevant prior art for subsequent applications. And if this is a fast growing field, even young patents get noticed very soon. The examiners are doing a good job, and even when the IDS are submitted by applicants, they do refer to the ones because fast developing field, the competition is high, and if you want to protect it through patents, you have to have an idea of what's going on, even when you are applying for a patent. And the other hypothesis is if you have a patent that is cited, if you remove the market coverage, then you can come up with those startups or with those companies that will definitely not show up when you are trying to analyze or try to find them out using quantity or the cumulative strength. What you see on the right-hand side is the forward citation-based indicator y-axis and the portfolio size. You definitely see some of the companies which you will not see generally if you are doing just quantity or cumulative quality-based ranking. Alongside these companies, we also see Nike and Adidas. That's why I mentioned that it could be that there are companies that are operating in some other field, but now are venturing into the field of using digital healthcare uh, in their products, in their area of operation.
Also,
Nike,
Sabni, we are looking at the sorry to interrupt, please.
no,
Yeah,
no, yep,
yeah.
go ahead.
Actually, very recently, India purchased a lot of fighter jets from France, and that is the company called Tissot Systems, which I'm looking at right now in the chart. Is it
Yeah,
a fluke, or they're also
so
venturing out in the healthcare?
uh,
Yeah.
this is the company that is generally based on digital solutions and 3D manufacturing. It's a good thing that you pointed out. When we checked them, and if anyone is interested to have a much more detailed analysis using our software,
Okay.
please book a demo with us, because then you will see that how incredible these patterns are. They are
Mm.
3D printed tissues, elastic tissues, as well as tissues that are in this area where digital healthcare, and you will understand how how fast this field has gone and developed. So this is a good thing that you pointed out. I welcome anyone who is interested in going into the details to book a demo with us. As we were speaking, yeah, so Nike and Adidas, they must have much more patents in their patent portfolio than these 140, and Adidas less than 100. But still, their patents are good. They're key patents in digital health. And so they are doing something. And so we expect them to also operate in the digital health and the products that they'll bring into the market will also have something to do with that. However, if you want to look into the startups which are focused in digital health, we move to the right-hand side where we see the focus as the share in the total portfolio size. As we saw in the first slide, again, we try to find out how much of the entire portfolio is accounted for by these digital health patterns that we have for each entity. You see that hyperfine research, I heard it for the first time, I will be honest. This features in the top 20 when we are ranking them by forward citations. And these digital health, around 25 patents, they make almost 70% of its entire portfolio. Similarly, we find Dexcom, around 160 patents, they make up almost more than 70% of its portfolio. We also have Massimo. I have spoken about Massimo a lot. Massimo is very famous, and right now it has cracked a huge deal with Philips regarding its oximeters, and in the time of Corona. But Massimo Digital Health, it is in this field. The digital health makes almost half of its entire portfolio. So when we try to look in through this kind of a perspective, we find these companies, and probably it makes sense to have a look at what they're doing. And I'll try to show you some examples to give you an idea about the kind of patterns we retrieve and connect them to the kind of news we hear. This is how a result list in patent site looks like. So if you want to go to the details, read through the patents, this is how you can do that. So as we discussed, around 25 patents for hyperfine. And let's have a look at what kind of patents they are. So you see their magnetic resonance imaging. So probably these are MRI related patents, and most of them are in this field. So MRI related technologies where hyperfine is based in. And when I try to check the news, and this is a new, and if you just look into, these are very recent patents. And this is what I wanted to point out. Even if your patents are recent in a field that is developing fast, you will get cited as soon as they get published or even before they get published because examiners have an access to them. So this is the news that we have. So Hyperfines, they have named it Swoop. Portable MRI system has been chosen among 4,000 submissions as a fast company world-changing idea. If you move into the more recent news, May 2021, they are bringing this portable MRI system to the demo at door. So the concept is that they are bringing this portable MRI to the patient houses. This is where we can expect digital health to bring in path-breaking advancements and which do actually aid in advancement in the entire healthcare system. We saw hyperfine. We can also have a look at Dexcom patents. There were around 160 patents. So these are only some of the top ones that we can see in one snapshot. If you look into them, we see that they are generally in analyte sensoring. So they are, and they have been there for quite some time, not really that young. And one of them is even in glucose sensor. So the digital technology is being applied in censoring of the analytes in patients. When we look into the news, this is again 2021 news. Dexcom has got the approval to bring this patch that can be worn on the upper arm for the assessment of the glycemic control. So no more finger pricking to check your glucose level. You can wear the patch and your glucose level can be monitored, and it is for adults 18 and older. So as you see, the patterns that you retrieve as key patterns as a key entity, Dexcom, and the product that they're bringing to the market. This is how relevant patent analytics can be if you are trying to analyze a rapidly growing field, something like a digital healthcare technology.
Yeah.
We
So, I mean,
also
if I
look
can,
into,
okay.
yes.
Okay, please go on.
Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
If you can look into this is the last, I promise, no
Yeah.
more examples. So this is the Massimo Corporation patents. These are, and as we discussed, Massimo is in patient monitoring. It has oximeters. And now what we see here is, again, monitoring systems of patients, alarms, and also wireless patient monitoring. And Massimo has been in the news. It has got FDA clearances one after the other. One of the news that struck me and I want to share with everyone is it recently got the FDA clearance for patient monitoring for um, mainstream capnography. Capnography measures the partial pressure and the volume of the carbon dioxide in the gas that we exhale, the expiratory gas. And if you see, it mentions that it comes with a wireless Bluetooth connectivity. So we expect that if there is some kind of this kind of a remarkable invention, the company will try to protect it through patents. And these patents will be key patents and they will get cited and they will come up as highly valued patents. And so trust us when we say you patent analytics can be used to understand what kind of products the companies, the patent owners can bring to the society, as well as what direction of development can happen for the technology that we are trying to assess. Yeah, you had a question, Sachin.
Yes, I was actually looking at the examples. It feels really good to see what kind of technology startups are coming up, and as you're talking about healthcare, and specifically the applications are also on the healthcare side, related to patient monitoring and connectivity platform. But could there be times wherein, let's say, where other technologies might be failing, and healthcare, if we introduce the healthcare technology, they might create a success case over there. So not necessarily healthcare with the healthcare, but if any other failures exist out there and how we can leverage the healthcare applications and improve those. So yeah, would be happy to get more insights on that. Mm.
It's a good thing that this came to your mind actually, because when we discuss these things, it also happens that it can happen that we are always trying to put in
Yeah.
the success stories. But is there any company that is using digital health technologies in an area where we have seen failures?
Yeah.
Actually, it did come to my mind as well. And so I actually did some analysis to see one of these. And this is something I think it is close to all our hearts because Alzheimer's is one of those diseases where we haven't seen any success yet. And in the US as well as in the rest of the world, this is a case where we are not being able to make a breakthrough. Even the recently proclaimed potential blockbuster drugs also couldn't show much of a, what should I say, promise in the clinical trials. So, and there have been like many cooperative contract-based cooperation among the companies as well as research institutes trying to come together to address Alzheimer's, but we haven't faced any success yet. And the question is, are there any kind of opportunities to use these digital healthcare technologies to address these kind of diseases? What I did was I did actually try to find out whether there is healthcare technology, something of this kind in here. Um, and I focused on Alzheimer's because we all know that we are yet to find a success. So the strategy was to narrow down the healthcare technology field into the specific application area of neurological diseases, that to Alzheimer's. What I have done here is I have removed any other kind of entity apart from operating companies. So you see here the top 10 companies as per the patent asset index. Um, I could have looked at the startups as well, but I can't include everything in a webinar. If someone is interested to look at the startups, we could have done that as well. Why I have done that is because I don't want to go into the details, but it does happen that after repeated failures, companies do stop research in particular technological areas, Alzheimer's being one of them. So it's worthwhile to have a look at who are still trying to do something in Alzheimer's and who are still trying to use digital healthcare technology in this case. So these are the top 10. And if you look at the trend of patent asset index, Roche has had a tremendous increase in its strength in using digital health in Alzheimer's since 2014. Others like Pfizer has a decrease. I think it is also known to all of us that Pfizer did declare that it is stopping its research in Alzheimer's in 2010. And even prior to that, the decrease of its pattern asset index had started. It is having a subsidiary where it will concentrate on Alzheimer's. And recent years data show that there is a slight increase in its pattern asset index. Probably it is doing something worthwhile. We have to wait for a few more years to see what's happening. But since I saw Roche, I thought maybe it's a good idea to even have a look at the patents that Roche has in this field, if you want to have a look at that. So these are the patents that Roche has in digital healthcare in Alzheimer's. And we see that what it is doing, it is bringing in digital biomarkers in cognitive diseases. And more or less what we find here is the focus is the same, using digital technology, but on the tau proteins. They are the ones which are misfolded in Alzheimer's. And so having some kind of an analysis done on the tau proteins makes sense. And they have used the tau protein specific ligands that can be used in the PET technology, which is positron emission tomography. So we can very well understand what Roche is trying to do, and it is protecting its inventions. And they're fairly, most of them are not very old patents. If you check the news, you will see that Roche in 2018 received the breakthrough device designation from the FDA for its new Alzheimer's disease assays. And you see that they are concentrating on the phospho-tau concentration in the cerebrospinal fluid for this assay. So as I said, even when we are concentrating on areas where we haven't seen much success, maybe there is promise that maybe digital health can aid in that area as well. We have to wait to see if things can turn in that direction. So these are some of the interesting insights that we have. And before signing off, I would like to show you a fun patent as well. I don't want to mean fun as trivial, but a fun that is definitely something that can pique our interests. This is a very recently filed patent, Chinese patent filed in 2020. This is how the abstract looks like, and I'll draw your attention to what it says. It says this is a construction site emergency management system. It has an intelligent robot. It is a drone disinfection unit. Please mark your word. This is a drone. And it is connected to grade A tertiary hospital health system. Now, the thing is, uh, if you look into the figures of this patent, have a look at it. And I invite you to think, doesn't it remind you of one of our favorite drones we have seen over the years from our childhood regarding some sci-fi movies? In case it does, I'll show you what I think it resembles. So these are the figures that we see in this patent. And they say truth is stranger than fiction. And trust me, science can make even fiction come true. And in case it doesn't come to your mind yet, uh, doesn't this remind you of R2D2 from the Star Wars? It did actually remind me of it. And this is a very interesting thing that sometimes science makes even fiction come true. And in such a way where they will be, R2D2 was the savior that time. Probably this drone disinfection unit will also prove to be a savior. If there is any chance that at some point of time C3PO or BB8 makes a splash in the real world, or for that case, even Iron Man or Jarvis makes a splash in the real world, protecting their inventions through patents, please trust me, I'll be striving to be the first one to bring the news to you. So this is a fun fact. Today is Friday. I hope this also was something of an interest to everybody who attended today's webinar. Since we have some time, this is where you can have more information about what we presented today. But since we have some time, and as I said, I promised, and probably because of the question that we had about how we defined the search syntax for defining the field, this is how the search and the analysis in LexisNexis patent site can be done. So the full text search that we have, you can search for the patents not only in English language, but also in English language versions. As you saw, we showed you the Chinese patent. And all wildcard operators and Boolean operators that you generally use for searching is available. And as you saw, we show you in the webinar, we analyze them using our scientifically validated and patented KPIs. This is a paper where it was published. Regarding the search syntax, and I don't want to claim that this is the entire thing. The search syntax itself covers 6 to 7 pages in Word, but this excerpts from that. So you have smart, intelligent, near, system, tech, bed, surgery, imaging, and symptom near check. So as well as IPC related to medical health with an and operator on G and H. G is for physics, H is for electronics. So this is how we generated the search syntax. And obviously, when we are using this kind of a strategy, we will get very unrelated patterns, and they are removed using and not on the IPC and the CPCs. In case there is more question about this, please book a demo with us so that you can actually have a look at the search syntax and all the analysis that we did. This is what we have until now, and if there's any question, I'll be happy to answer.
Wow, great. Thanks, Urbani. I think very quick observation that Chinese patent is not granted yet, right? The one with the
Yes, it's a pending
R2D2.
patent.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
maybe you should send the R2D2 picture to Chinese examiner. He won't
Yeah,
be granting that
probably
patent.
probably the picture will be referenced as a relevant prior art, and we don't know what's going to happen. But
Yeah.
even the examiner might feel that it's related to R2D2.
Great. True.
So I thank everybody who attended today's webinar. May science be with you. May the force be with you. And
Okay.
yeah,
Great, Sabri.
thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you everyone for your presence in today's webinar. We look forward to have you again in a series of webinar which we do frequently. And as I mentioned in the beginning, there will be a very small survey at the end of this session. And I request all the participants uh, to look at the survey and let us know your feedback. Now, just to spoil your surprise, the question number 7 states that using patent site, we'll be happy to provide you the report on any technology or on any company of your choice. So for example, if you're operating in semiconductor industry, you could let us know related to what you are trying to achieve in terms of analytics, and we'll be happy to consult you on those goals. So please feel free to let us know your feedback, and if there is any question, you can drop us an email on the IDs provided also in the handout, and we'll also mention the same in the follow-up email. Thank you everyone. Until next time, please be safe, please be healthy, and looking forward to have you again in our next webinar. Thank you everyone for your presence today. Thanks, Urbani.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you everyone.